Hello and welcome to Unacademy. I welcome you all to this session, an interesting one which talks about an episode of history which is not talked about enough. The story of the stolen premiership. The idea that Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel was actually not given prime ministership deliberately by Gandhi. And in this episode and in this video itself, we'll try to understand, is this really true? What is the story behind this? What is the historicity behind this? And on the 150th anniversary of Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, it would be no better discussion to understand, was it really true that Gandhi took away this concept, the premiership concept, the presidentship of Congress, which was in turn going to become the premiership, which in turn would become the prime ministership of India, away from Patel, and what is the source on which this episode is based upon? Before we do that, remember that the 19999 offer is going to end very soon. I use the code IS English to be tagged to our team. Now, first, let's get the basics straight. Who is Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel? He does not need an introduction, but he was born on 31st October 1875. That is why we celebrate today as his 150th birth anniversary. He was born in Gujarat and he was born to Javeri Patel and Labda Patel. He comes from a very interesting, you can say, sect of Vaishnavism, and from a sect which is till today considered very important, which is Vaishnavism and the Pushti Marg sect within Vaishnavism itself. And he somehow found the money and saved a lot of his funds, which his father was also providing to him, to go to England at the age of 36 to complete his barristership in the Middle Temple. And once he will come back to India, he will be one of the most successful barristers in Ahmedabad. And his public career before Kheda is not known quite a lot because we don't go to the micro history of Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel generally when we go into modern India in that regard. So it is a certain struggle through which he went to England in that regard. And people don't talk about that enough. Now, as a UPSC aspirant, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel will appear in multiple contexts to you, which is when we talk about the national movement, there are certain spaces in which in any standard book, you will see his references. And let's try to summarize that first, which is the first episode in which Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel will emerge is the Kheda Satyagraha, where he and Vithalbhai Patel, his brother, are going to play a very important role in the Kheda struggle of the peasants against the remission of the taxes, which was not happening. And this is where Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel's association with Gandhi will also start. So this is a very interesting episode. 1917, we get, this is not something out of the box. We all know about it. He will be extremely instrumental in the Rowlatt Satyagraha and also in the non-cooperation movement. In the non-cooperation movement, he was able to bring in a lot of volunteers in that regard. But again, the second episode in which he is again very explicitly talked about is Swarajist no changes, where Vithalbhai Patel is going to become a Swarajist, but he will become a no changer and argue that the boycott of councils, which was accepted as the non-cooperation program, should be held to its word, and we should not go into the politics so as to get corrupted by the political power. Whereas Vithalbhai Patel argued that we have to open a new front and arena. So the Swarajists would argue that we should give up this boycott. The no changer said we should not, we should follow the Gandhian path. This is again where you will find mention to Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel in a lot of detail. Then where he earned his name Sardar is Bordoli Satyagraha, 1928, where the 22% hike in the taxation was the issue which the peasants were facing, where he did the Satyagraha independently and was able to get concessions from the government. That is where he was called Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. And it is under his chairmanship that the Fundamental Rights and Economic Policy Resolution in 1931 was also passed by the Congress, and he was instrumental in making sure that this is passed. He will again be very instrumental in the CDM. He will again be very instrumental in Quit India. These are things which we already know, and his what we call as pre-independence legacy is very well known. But this one episode people don't talk about. And this is where it is not just you and me, it is everyone does not talk about it. Maybe it is not relevant for UPSC per se, but it's an important question which we need to answer on his 150th birthday, which is that was he offered the premiership or the prime ministership first, and it was Gandhi who changed that perspective later. We already know that Gandhi played a lot of, you can say, internal, I'll not say politics, but his decisions played a very important role. For example, with regards to Subhash Chandra Bose, the Haripuri and Tripuri sessions in that regard, be it how he found, you can say, Nehru as a person who's a middle path vis-a-vis himself and Subhash Chandra Bose. But you should understand one more thing, which is that Nehru has a little bit of a socialist bent, along with Subhash Chandra Bose. They are Congress left, as they're called. And while on the other hand, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel was called Congress right because he was more towards the understanding of industries, and he knew that in order to make India a great nation thereafter, once India gets independence, we need the industries, we need the support of what is called as the landed communities also. So this is where there's an ideological difference between Nehru and Patel that is very well known also, this Congress left and right concept. Now this is where this episode comes through in 1946. Now first you have to understand what does this premiership concept mean and what is the protocol which is followed. See, in 1940, Maulana Abdul Kalam Azad was the president of the Congress. Between 1940 to 46, he will hold the position of the president of the Congress, which is AICC president or CWC president. But because from 1942 to 1946, Quit India INC was banned as it is, it was on and off. It was on and off. Generally, the presidentship between 40 to 46 is considered to be, you can say, just in namesake, because most leaders were in jail after 42 till 45 till Wavell Conference, and therefore 40 to 46 Maulana Abdul Kalam Azad is there, and generally it is believed that the position of the Congress president is a honorary position which is given by the AICC, which is the reason why Subhash Chandra Bose was also not acceptable to the AICC, because he was becoming too, you can say, he was driving the agenda too much. But the idea is Maulana Abdul Kalam had the what we call as chairmanship or what is called as the presidentship of the Congress in that regard. Now it is believed, and this is totally belief, it is believed that when the interim government would be formed, the president of the Congress would be called and given the premiership, which in turn would mean that once India would get independence and get the dominion status in that regard, the premier would become the first prime minister. So there is a certain analogy which is linked in this story, that the Congress president, whoever is going to be the president of the Congress in 1946, will automatically be the premier and would automatically become the prime minister of independent India. And this is what historians have generally linked, that this president election of 1946 is very, very important. And this president word sometimes is also replaced by the word chairman. You will find these two words, chairman of the AICC, president of the AICC. Generally, the episode of who is going to be the president or the chairman of the AICC or the Congress is very important, because that would decide who is going to become the premier. Now, there are two versions to this story. There are two versions to this story, and we have to understand which version should we need to actually take into consideration. The first version is a very simplistic one, that in the summer of 1946, the Congress elected a new party president, and since the Second World War, this position has been held by Maulana Abdul Kalam Azad, but in namesake, because the sessions were not happening generally. Now, when it came to the AICC members nominating the next president, 5 candidates' names were set: Jawaharlal Nehru, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, J.B. Kripalani, Subhash Chandra Bose, and Jayaprakash Narayan. Subhash Chandra Bose is not in context because he was in the INA at this point of time. By this point of time, we believe that he was dead. Jayaprakash Narayan was not part of the Congress at this point of time. He was the part of the CSP, which is Congress Socialist Party. That's a separate party altogether. So now the name of Patel and J.B. Kripalani is left, and both of them, according to a certain version of the story, Gandhi said to Patel and Kripalani that no but better leader can be there than Nehru. So they both withdrew their names, ensuring that on 4th August, when the viceroy is inviting the Congress president to form the what we call as interim government. Though Wavell is not going to be the one who will establish the interim government in that regard, because the interim government elections will happen later under Mountbatten when the cabinet mission will be taken into consideration. But this is where Nehru assumed power of this interim government under Wavell. Remember, there are two interim governments at this point of time. We are discussing 1946. This 1946 elections of the interim government is not implemented by Wavell. It is implemented by Mountbatten later. So do remember this point, that this name of Wavell is because only in March of 1947 will Mountbatten come to India. And therefore, remember this point, it is Wavell's blunder in the Wavell conference that led to Jinnah's rise, you can say rise, or his confirmation to make sure that partition happens. But this interim government is under Wavell. And this is where it is believed that Nehru was now going to be is going to serve the next 18, you can say next 18 as the uninterrupted prime minister also, but he is going to be the president of the Congress, which in turn means that he is going to be the first prime minister. This is where the linkage comes from. So this episode is considered to be the first version. 5 names went through. Nehru was in a way unanimously accepted by everyone. Patel also accepted that. Kripalani also accepted that. And Wavell also accepted it. And therefore, when we have in 2nd September, the interim government coming through under Wavell, it is going to be like this only. However, you know that it was not as straightforward as this, because Mountbatten, when he will come through, he will complicate this whole concept in that regard. But Wavell is the one who established the interim government. That is why I am saying 2 interim governments are being talked about here. One Wavell and the other one under Mountbatten. This is the original one under which there was a lot of hue and cry by the Muslim League also that we will not enter into the interim government. I am trying to contextualize this for you because you may not be able to associate Wavell with the interim government. Now, the more interesting aspect here is the second version. The second version is a very interesting one. This is based on the biography of Nehru. Now, there is a certain protocol which is followed in making somebody the president of the AICC or the chairman of the AICC. That protocol is that Congress members per se at this point of time do not have the power to nominate the president, but what is called as the Pradesh Congress committees. You may have learned this in the Nagpur session that 3-tiered model was created: AICC, Provincial Congress Committee and Ward Congress Committee. This is basically the Provincial Congress Committee, PCC, and they call Pradesh Congress Committees. And it is believed that they are the ones who have the power to nominate the person to the Congress position or the Congress president position. This protocol was not there previously, but it is an evolution in a process of Congress presidentship which came through in the 40s in that regard. Now, it is believed that on April 29th, 1946, that was the last date for nomination for the post of Congress president, thereby the first Prime Minister of India. This is the understanding. The Congress party documents show that out of the 15 Congress committees at the Pradesh level, provincial Congress committees, out of them 12 had nominated and also given the name of Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel as their choice to be the chairman or the president of the Congress. Now understand, whoever is going to be the Congress president in April will automatically become the leader of the interim government, which is the premiership in that regard, in August, in September, and therefore under Mountbatten, the power will be transferred to that person. Now, if you look at it, the Pradesh Congress committees say that Sardar Patel, we want 12 out of 3 abstain from the nomination process itself. So the only legitimate body which could nominate and elect a president did not nominate Jawaharlal Nehru only. This is the version which is not talked about enough, which is that the PCC was the body which could nominate the president. They did not nominate the Congress president as Jawaharlal Nehru. Only Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel's name comes. Though Jawaharlal Nehru is a very influential person and is a very powerful personality within the Congress, it is Patel who is considered a better administrator. And this is where Gandhi will even say to Nehru, no PCC has put forward your name, only the working committee. Now, where does Nehru's name come through? Even though the PCCs had nominated Patel's name, Nehru's name was brought up by some committee members, by some AICC members. Interestingly, AICC members don't have the power to nominate the president. And therefore, this nomination was just illegally done via that, okay, some AICC members are also taking the name of Nehru. So Gandhi said that we should go with Nehru. And this in turn led to this concept that Jawaharlal Nehru will not be in second place. Patel needs to withdraw. This is a very interesting thing which is happening. The sequence of events, according to one version, is 5 names go, 2 of them are not there, 2 of them simply say that we believe Nehru is better. The more, you can say, precise version says that there were Pradesh Congress committees which have the power to nominate the president. 15 are there, 12 gave the name of Patel unanimously in a way because 3 abstained in that regard. However, AICC members, when they got to know that, okay, if 12 members have said Patel's name, some of the AICC members said that we should also nominate or we should also take into consideration Nehru. Nehru, when his name comes through, then Gandhi says that, oh, yes, we believe that Nehru is a better leader, and this is where he will say to Patel that you should withdraw your nominationship, you should withdraw from this position, let Nehru become the first premier or the first, what we call as first prime minister in a way, the chairman of the Congress working committee, de facto, therefore, the concept of becoming the first prime minister. This is very interesting. Gandhi's intervention is considered important. Now you will ask me, sir, what is the source for this? What is the source? Who said this? Where do we know about this? This comes from the biography of Nehru written in 1959 by Michael Brescher. It is Michael Brescher who talks about the concept of 12 out of 15 Congress committees. He also writes in his you can say in Nehru's biography that if Gandhi had not intervened, Patel would have been the first de facto premier of India. Sardar was robbed of the prize and it rankled deeply. So therefore, the idea is very simple. It is believed. Now, see, this episode and within the biography of Nehru is also questioned by historians. That it was based on the account of one member of the AICC who was not named within the biography itself. It is believed that Nehru was already accepted unanimously, and see, Nehru and Patel are leaders. They are statesmen. They're not power hungry men that they will fight against each other for this position. And when Gandhi said to Patel that, and Gandhi would have, when he said this to Patel, rather understood that it is better that Nehru remains because Gandhi would then remain on the side of the Congress also. There's a lot of dynamics here. It is not that Patel became angry because of this, but the idea is that if we go behind the episode, the procedure through which you make a person a president, which was followed, actually elected Patel. However, Gandhi intervened and changed it to Nehru. Was it the correct or incorrect, you can say, decision? Is none of our business in that regard because we are not in the same shoes in that sense. The idea is very simple. We are not in the position to judge these personalities. We just know one thing, that then Nehru and Patel came together and the post-colonial legacy of India needed both in that regard. Again, as a historian, my job is not to judge this episode. I am just recounting this episode to you. If you want to believe the first version, that is also quite accepted. The second version is recently becoming more and more important. It is not that it is based on random things, it is based on a person's biography, and it is also backed by sources, but those sources have been questioned. That is the only thing which is there. This is also questioned. So, before I talk about his post-colonial legacy, which we already know, what have we understood to this point? We've understood that he was a very important personality within the national movement itself. We know now very well that there's a process of the AICC members to be, or rather one of the AICC members to become the president. That is the PCC, the Pradesh Congress committees to come through. We also know that one version says that 5 names had gone through. all of them had basically said that Nehru is better. Gandhi did not intervene per se. Second episode is, which is now very well documented, is the Pradesh Congress committees accepting the name of Patel, and thereafter Patel's name removed, or he removed his nomination because Nehru was nominated by Gandhi, and Gandhi said Nehru is going to be a better, you can say, prime minister and a better president at that point of time. Again, how history would have been thereafter if Patel would have been the first prime minister is pure counterfactual history. It is pure conjecture. Good or bad, we needed this episode to happen. The idea is what Patel did thereafter as deputy prime minister, as the home minister, and as the minister of state at that point of time is more critical and more important, and that is why we call him the Iron Man of India. There are three very important, you can say, episodes which happened after independence, which make him Patel as we know him today. The first one obviously is 565 princely states and their political integration. The balkanization of India was guaranteed by the British through the processes of the Indian Independence Act, but it is only Patel, his pragmatic approach, his three-pronged approach, he made sure that he was able to persuade the ones who are within India to become part of India itself. The instrument of accession, how he dealt with Hyderabad, how he dealt with Junagadh, how he dealt with Kashmir, is still considered the most important contribution of Patel to our history, to India in that regard. And therefore, because he is a personality who united India, is called the Iron Man of India, unity for India, and this Statue of Unity is dedicated to him. Obviously, this is something which he and VP Menon could be only be doing. Patel was needed as a strategist to reunite the 565 princely states and political units which were there. At the same point of time, he is also the father of a service which you are preparing for, which is All India Services, which is the civil services in that regard. He was the one who wanted to change the basis of the steel frame of the way, or in the way we talk about today, the civil services, its integrity, its impartiality, and the way it is structured today, all because of Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. So, this short but interesting discussion was to contextualize things, was to give you a little bit more out of history. Do we need to change the way we answer a question in the examination? No. These are things which we as historians know. We keep it within ourselves because these things need context, until it is not accepted line within the larger public narrative in the NCRTs, in other boards, we can't say that. So I, as a historian, I know this episode quite well, but I think today on the 150th anniversary of Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, it makes sense to talk about it and give you details about it. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.